So good afternoon or good morning wherever you are in the world. Talent Finders podcast would like to welcome best-selling author, keynote speaker, entrepreneur, and founder of Boss and Heels, Heather Monahan. Welcome, Heather.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So firstly, Heather, I'd like to congratulate you on all your achievements and successes. For those who don't know you, please could you share a little more about yourself and your journey?
Sure. So I spent the majority of my career was in corporate America. I was an executive in media and advertising for over 20 years, and I reached the C-suite as a chief revenue officer responsible for hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was fired when the CEO I worked for 14 years became ill, and he elevated his daughter to CEO. So that was July 27th of 2017. And I went out on my own. I wrote and self-published my first book, Confidence Creator, and I launched my podcast, Creating Confidence with Heather Monahan, and I started speaking all around the country and signed with APB speakers.
Amazing. So, having climbed your way successfully up the corporate ladder for 20 years, at what point did you decide, well, obviously you elaborated on that, but what compelled you once you were kind of fired out of, well, not kind of, you were fired out of your position, what compelled you to go on your own as opposed to going and, finding another corporate job? And was this a natural transition for you?
At that point in time, I had a non-compete for 1 year, so I was not able to go back to the industry I knew and had a really strong reputation. And so it gave me that chance to say, okay, if I'm not going to work in this industry, where would I want to work? And do I want to work for someone else or do I want to work for myself? And I didn't have that answer. I just decided to take the chance.
Oh, amazing. Having worked in corporate, how do you feel it helped you in your entrepreneurial journey? And what were some of the things that made you do things better on your own in your own entrepreneurial landscape?
Well, when you work for yourself, you're the only person that can hold you back. So, one of the challenges working for large companies in corporate America is there's a lot of red tape and you need a lot of approvals and people don't want to take a lot of risks. So that was gone. Once it was just me, I bet on myself. I take risks. I believe in, taking major risk, and if it means failing at something, failing, and then just responding to whatever happened and adjusting. So I definitely move much faster now that I work for myself.
Amazing. So so you're one of the most, well, for me, just from what I can see, one of the most remarkable women who broke the glass ceiling. Can you share with us how you did this, and what are some of your biggest lessons and learnings in your career, and what do you feel you've done better through these lessons?
I didn't hear that last question.
You're one of the most remarkable women who's broken the glass ceiling. Can you share with us how you did this, and what are some of your biggest lessons and learnings been in your career, and how do you feel you have done, or what do you feel you have done better through these lessons that you've learned?
The one difference maker is I always asked for what I wanted. So I saw an opportunity in a company that didn't have a VP of sales when I started with the organization. So I pitched myself for a job that didn't exist, and I was awarded the job. And, I continuously pitched myself for opportunities that I wanted instead of sitting by and waiting for someone to give them to me. And I think that's the biggest difference maker.
Amazing. So, also, I love how you've changed up your title from the boring typical corporate titles to Chief Revenue Officer in media. Can you share with us a little more about this and how this came about and some background?
Well, I had been the VP of sales, and then I was elevated to Executive Vice President. And then, from there, that's when the only position higher would be a Chief Revenue Officer. So that was the natural progression as I advanced in the company. That next move from there would be CEO, but obviously I got fired before I reached CEO.
You've also won some awards. One I can mention is the Glass Ceiling Award, amongst others. Can you please share with us how this came about, and has winning awards opened doors to your business or to other business opportunities, or was this just the icing on the cake for you?
So the Florida Diversity Council honors each year different women in business for elevating other women and helping advanced women, which was something that, I had done a lot. I had mentored a lot of people on my team, and specifically a number of different women, and elevated them into management and leadership. So being recognized for that was a great honor. I don't know that it necessarily advanced me in my career, but it was certainly a fantastic honor.
So many women have incredible ideas and concepts. Why do you think that women still struggle with confidence and asking for what they want? You are such an example of a strong woman and have gone after what you want. What do you believe to be different? And was confidence something that was instilled in you from a young age? And what do you believe you can personally do to help other women to find their own power in negotiations, in terms of negotiating or pitching? And what do you think women can do? What do you think women can do better to support each other?
Well, first of all, everyone struggles with confidence, not just women. And I'm no different. I had zero confidence in my earlier years. It really wasn't until my early 40s that I began to develop confidence and understand that, it was like a muscle, something you needed to train, and sometimes it would dip and you'd have to refocus on it and work at it. So it definitely was not something that I innately knew. It's something that it's a skill that anyone can develop. So, as far as, other women, it's really about being mindful and aware that if this is something you struggle with, really dive into it. That's exactly why I wrote my book, Confidence Creator, is to help teach people how to create their own confidence for themselves. It's why I launched my podcast, Creating Confidence. So if it's something that you want to work on, jump into the material and get going and hold yourself accountable to it. It's just like learning a new language or working out at the gym. You need to make a commitment and then do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to touch on leadership, or should I say the lack of leadership. We are in such a critical crisis in leadership, and we see it failing on a global scale. What do you believe as a leader in your own entrepreneurial landscape that you do is different and effective? And can you give us some real examples of this? And what do you believe needs to be done in order to change the current narrative in leadership?
Well, for me, I've been in a leadership position since my early 20s. And one thing that I've been consistent with is I never ask people to do a job that I haven't done myself or I'm not willing to do myself. And that really gains some credibility as a leader. One of the disconnects I've had is the short time I had to work for a person that didn't understand jobs or positions in the company, yet wanted to mandate it be done a certain way. That's a massive disconnect, and there's not a lot of respect when you're working for someone that doesn't understand the job, the role, or the position and has unrealistic expectations. So I really pride myself on when I worked for the Gallo Winery, I rode on the delivery trucks and I delivered the wine, and I didn't just do the sales role or the leadership role. So it's about really immersing yourself in business, all aspects of it, and garnering an understanding and a commitment to being relatable so that people understand, hey, this person's out there working really hard too. They have flaws, they make mistakes, and they share them with us. Being transparent is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were named one of the most influential women in radio 2 years running. Can you share with us how this came about, and was this a goal for you, or was this just an organic process for you?
No, I was definitely not acknowledged on this list for a number of years. And I began thinking I was being targeted and told not to be in inclusion because of a certain person within the company I worked for that really didn't like me and saw me as a threat. So when I started to notice that I was the only really high positioned woman in leadership in the industry not being recognized, and I didn't think I could petition for myself, I started letting people that cared about me know, hey, don't you guys think it's weird that I'm not on this list? And what that turned into was a number of people in my industry, on my team, advocating, writing letters, and ultimately getting me on that list, and regardless of who wanted me on it or not.
Amazing. So social media is an incredible tool, but it also has impacted us both on a positive and negative scale. What do you believe we can do better to maximize this for the positive? And what do you think we need to do as a collective to use these tools more responsibly?
It's fantastic. Social media is a great way to connect with the content that you want. When people don't like social media, it's because they're following the wrong people. And my suggestion is unfollow those people. If you don't like messaging from certain people, you have the choice to curate your feeds and you're in charge of it. So for me, I have a really positive feed. I follow positive people and I surround myself with really uplifting messages. So social media is something that I love engaging with. However, different people use it for different reasons. So it's just kind of accepting accountability for what your feed looks like.
Absolutely. So that leads me to the next question. So how do you, as a woman, think we can support each other through sexual harassment? Because that is obviously a very heavy, and I don't want to get too heavy into it, but and why do you think men in supposed positions of power still think that they can try to sexually harass women? And what do you believe would be the solution to this?
Well, the more that women share stories of what's happening to them, obviously the Me Too movements help so much to shine a light on this and, keeping those discussions going so that people don't feel that they're ashamed and they need to hide from the truth, but instead share it is really powerful and very important. And, the things I've learned is always document everything along the way so that you're operating from facts instead of emotion, which is really powerful. Always consult attorneys, follow whatever process is in your company that's outlined, whether it be to, tap the general counsel or whoever it is you're supposed to alert to situations, ask for help, and, reach out to people that you trust that have been there before and can help advise and guide you.
No, that's excellent advice. Thank you. So, you've written you've written some books. Was this something that you always wanted to do, or was this an organic process for you? And can you share with us a little more about your book?
Sure. No, I did not always want to write a book. I had never even thought about writing a book before, not until I got fired. And really, it was on the Elvis Duran show. And halfway through the interview, Elvis Duran said, well, Heather, obviously you're writing a book. And when he said that, that was the first moment I really thought, wow, maybe, if he's this convinced, if he has 10 million listeners to his show and he's this convinced I should write a book, I guess I probably should. So I Googled when I left there, how do you write a book? And, but basically you're just supposed to sit down and start writing. And I did just that. I just sat down for 4 to 5 hours every day and wrote. And over, a week, 2 weeks time, it started taking shape that I was writing a book on how to create confidence and bounce back from adversity. And my book is all personal stories from my life, different times in my life, whether I was getting divorced, whether I had lost all of my money, whether, I was facing bullying as a child, all these different moments in my life and how I learned how to create confidence from each one of them and how the reader can too.
No, amazing. So you've also featured in many publications or media publications. How important has this been for you, and has this helped you not only add credibility to your existing journey, but also open doors for you in your career?
Yeah, for sure. The larger your reach is, the more people you're able to access with your message. So that's where different publications interviewing me or picking up my story has been very helpful. I was in USA Today, and that was really the most impactful platform that I've ever been on. And that, the response that I received from that, the amount of messages and, the followers I gained from that one article alone was really massive. But then there was other times I was on CNN and it did nothing for me, So
yeah, so it just varies from platform to platform.
Exactly. And you just never know what is going to be that difference maker. And that's why you just got to keep showing up and putting yourself out there.
So what would you say your biggest career highlights have been?
My biggest career highlights for sure are writing and self-publishing my first book, Confidence Creator, because that was so out of the expected and what I thought was possible. So that's definitely my number one. And then I would say my number two, just recently, is moving into professional speaking. And most recently, last month, interviewing Sarah Blakely live on stage at a marketing conference. That was, pretty
She's
unexpected.
amazing.
She is. She's a fantastic woman, and it was just a great experience.
Amazing. So you've also recently been added as a guest professor at Harvard, which is an awesome achievement. Can you share with us how that happened?
Sure. So I have a very large following on LinkedIn, and I had a Harvard professor send me a DM on LinkedIn asking if I would be a guest professor for his class on sales and marketing. And
Wow.
I didn't believe it was true. So I Googled the professor and found that he was actually an adjunct professor at Harvard. And so I set up a meeting with him, and we got on a call, and it was, he was very interested in my background because I am a female, because I reached the C-suite, and because of my different experiences. He felt that I could really lend a totally fresh perspective to his class versus his experience, where he was in his 50s as a male and had come up a different way in corporate America. So it was great to see that, just because you might see yourself one way, I saw myself as, I didn't go to Harvard. Why would they want me to teach at Harvard? For him, it was the fact that I didn't go to Harvard and the fact that I had so real life experience. Exactly.
Yeah. No, 100%. So that leads me to the last question. What is your ultimate what is your ultimate legacy you would like to leave and continue? And what are the 3 key tips or pieces of advice you would give to entrepreneurs that you'd like to share?
My legacy is my son. My son is the most amazing person. I'm so proud of him. And for me, he just represents, everything good in this world. And I'm so grateful for him. As far as business goes, I love that I've had the opportunity to create a directional step-by-step on how to create confidence, and the feedback and messaging that I get from people on how it's changed and shaped their lives in a positive way has been just fantastic. As far as steps go, for entrepreneurs, I would definitely say move fast and break things, because speed to market is critical in success, critical in business and life. Figure out what problem you solve and then sell that problem so that you don't focus on selling your products instead, but really, campaign around what that problem is and how you're going to solve it for others. And when you make things about other people, the conversation, the sales process, you achieve your goals much easier.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time, Heather, and hopefully we can have you back in the future.
Well, thanks so much for having me.